Hello, everyone, and welcome to Edge Talk Radio. My name is Angela Zabel. That's me. And I am here today. We're going to be talking about Stop Talking, Start Loving, Nurturing Connection. It's with author Rob Thomas of Arizona, and I can't wait to get into it. We've been talking a little bit before we started, and you are going to love meeting him. So I can't wait. So, who am I? My name is Angela Zabel. I have connected to spirit working with the team in the non physical my entire life, sharing messages from a multitude of realms with people. There, I am a teacher, coach, medium, radio show host, writer, retreat host, gallery reader, doing speaking engagements, offering guidance, mediumship, intuition with online private and group sessions, classes, and the Amplified Universe monthly membership. This is a group growing our connection to us, our world, all that is around us, and our role in it, sharing knowledge and working with people around the world. You can find me on pretty much all the social media aspects, and go to my website, angelazabel.com. And today, I'm going to try to get this in. We're going to try. I cannot guarantee, but we're going to try to get this in link here. So today, we are here with Edge Magazine. Let me get it this way. There. Edge Magazine is a leading events and media resource dedicated to all aspects of holistic living, health, wellness, and the mysteries beyond, promoting businesses and promoting and sharing wisdom and resources committed to promoting businesses, organizations, and individuals who support our collective journey to wholeness and balance. They are currently distributed in 30 states plus Canada, with over 17,000 magazines per printing, with a vibrant online magazine with over 42,000 people reached per month. You can have the magazine shipped to your door, stay up to date with the newsletter, become a drop spot, and you can check out Kelly Wagner on the Being Curious show. You can check out more at edgemagazine.net. There's a lot of great information, so I hope you take a chance to do that. And today we're here with Rob Thomas. He has spent the last 20 years helping big companies get unstuck. He sits down with teams, listens hard, asks the right questions, and turns fuzzy goals into clear, doable plans. From automotive giants to banks, energy firms to tech startups, he's worked all over the world figuring out what people really need and how to make it happen faster, simpler, and with less drama. Along the way, he's coached executives one on one, guiding them through the toughest decisions while keeping supply chains so nothing falls apart. Rob's gift is making complicated things feel straightforward. The same clarity and care shows up when he works with individuals. He has a knack for cutting through noise, spotting what actually matters, and helping people move forward. Skills that translate beautifully to the everyday stuff that trips couples up. These days, when he's not untangling corporate puzzles or exploring the mountains on skis, Rob is happiest at home with his wife and kids, reading a good book or quietly testing the ideas that became the Wordless Connection. His book, The Wordless Connection, is Deepen Intimacy Without Saying a Word, even if you're married. And that's on Amazon and Kindle. And his website is wordlessconnection.com. And for those listening, I'll spell it out. It is WordlessConnection.com. He's on Facebook and Instagram. He also has couples workshops, 3-hour virtual world date night experiences for couple, and group coaching, one-on-one, individual, or couples coaching. So I can't wait for you to check out more at thewordlessconnection.com with Rob. And Rob, I am so happy to have you here. I just got to ask, how did you decide to get into the wordless connection?
Oh, well, that's a great question, and thank you for your nice introduction. Actually, in my work, when I'm working with organizations, I generally engage with them and kind of plan on where we're going and what they want to have happen, and kind of have a map of how we're going. And I've got a team that I work with, and we start putting that in place. But every once in a while, I find that even with the best laid plans, it isn't working. We're not getting traction, and I'm trying to
Mm,
figure out how can we, what do we need to do to move in a way to get that traction. And so one of the things that I often think about is I want to change the conversation. So I'm thinking what we're doing is not working, and so I will get my team together and I say, okay, and we'll list all the stuff that we're doing with the organization, meetings and
mm,
events and so forth. And I'll just say, okay, what's the opposite of this? And we'll put that on the list, and we'll just kind of go through the list. And then we often will then start doing just the opposite to see what might be
Oh.
able to help us get that traction. And so I was in a situation in my long-term relationship with my partner, and uh, things, and I think anybody who's been in a long-term relationships, there are ups and downs and peaks and
Mm,
valleys. And I don't think anybody who's been in a long-term relationship doesn't feel like it requires some work. And so
mm,
I've been through that. We'd gone through some peaks and valleys already, but we were in one that seemed to be lasting a little bit longer. And because I'm a bit more verbal, as I was talking with my partner, she didn't quite say this, but it was kind of like the intent, talk is cheap. And so she wasn't really this, whatever I was saying. And I was reading books, I was listening to podcasts, I was really trying to figure out what's the right word to say at the right moment. And I just was
mm,
not making that happen. And so I went back to this thing. I wanted to change the conversation. What do I do? And so I started thinking about what's the opposite of what I'm doing. And I often go to the extreme. Well, the
mm.
opposite of what I was doing is I just don't say anything. So I thought more about that. And actually this started to kind of go into some of the experience and learnings I had earlier in college and some other times that I do talk about in the book about how communication works and how we can actually connect with people, not just in our relationships with our partner, but also at work and with our family. And so I started looking at this a little differently from what I had looked at before, but started kind of lining these things up. And that's kind of what got me moving forward in this direction.
I love the idea with the wordless connection because, like you said, you were talking, and I'm gonna say I've been in a long-term relationship too, and you get the stagnant parts and you get it moving forward, but
Right.
there's times where you're talking and the talking doesn't seem to work, and I like the idea where you're going back to the wordless and the actions and different things like that. When you started, first off, I just hear my team laughing in the background. So, for those who know, I have a team in the non-physical that help with the shows, and they're saying, "Did you tell your partner you were using the same methods as you were using at work? Because sometimes that doesn't go so well."
Yeah, well, I would tell you, when I started doing all of this and I was trying to figure this out, I didn't say anything. In fact, because part of it is I got started, and even I ultimately, once I kind of got some of this figured out, and I had some what I call experiments to help people kind of start experiencing some of these connection elements. Uh, I told this national audience that I was working with when they were trying it themselves. I said, from my perspective, at least for me, when I started, I didn't tell my partner anything, and because I was thinking, what if it doesn't work, or what if I fail, or I'm trying something, and I don't want, and again, when we're with our partner, we've had good times and we've had not good times. And the not good times, sometimes we embarrass ourselves through doing something. And since I had had a plenty experience working with myself, I thought, let's do this on the it would be low key about this. And so as I went into it, I didn't mention anything. I didn't tell her anything. And surprisingly, as I got into it, I found that right from the start, she responded in a great way.
Oh,
And that was very surprising. And so, as we get into this and we talk more about some of these things, I discovered that we all have this ability to start up. We have an easy startup to do these wordless connections. And so, we all have this ability. And it's really just something that we need to start trying, experimenting with, but we all have this ability to make it happen.
I love how you said we all have the ability and to experiment with it. So, knowing one way might work for you, but doing some experimentation might be a little bit different way that works for someone else, but it's going to get pretty much the same result, but it's done that is works for them. And I like the
Sure.
experimentation part. I think that's really key because a lot of people go into when they're, and it doesn't mean you have to have like huge issues in your relationship. You
No,
can, but it just means, hey, maybe I want to make it a little better. Maybe I want to, make it a little closer. And by doing that, this is giving you the option to do that, ways to do it in easy ways without being,
sure.
I'm just going to say that. I know a lot of people where when they get to situations like this, they don't want to go see a counselor. They want to try to figure things out on their own. And I think that's where
Mm.
your book is not, I'm not saying don't go to counselors, but what I'm saying is for people who are a little hesitant about this, I think your book is a really big tool for them to use to start doing small things. And I've got to
Sure.
ask, as you started going through this, did you find I just feel like you went to work, you're taking the work things that you notice and kind of making it work for the home. Did you have to tweak or adjust a lot for that?
Yeah, actually, in fact, when I was doing it in the beginning, again, when we're trying something new, it's kind of like when we do something the second time, we tend to be experts. The
Yeah.
first time we do it, we really think, you know, this is going to be where our self-talk can, we're worried that we're going to have a train wreck. And
Oh
so,
yeah.
so did I want to tell her that? No, I didn't even want to tell her I was going to try something. So, I was really intent, and I'm, in fact, this word intent, I'm going to mention a number of times. One of the key things that you do through this whole process with these experiments is that you just do it intentionally. Now, a lot of things we do with our partner, we're thinking of something else. We're trying to text and talk, or we're driving and we're multitasking. When we're really trying to connect, we need to be very intentional. And so
Mhm.
I will tell you the thing that I was trying to do as I was experimenting with this in the very beginning, I really was intentional. So that's one of the things that, unbeknownst to me, wound up being something that was very helpful because it kind of helped orient all my personal kind of my energy within my body towards this moment that I was having with my partner. And again, when it first started, she was thinking, just just another night on the planet. I mean, so there is nothing going on, nothing to see here. I didn't clue her in, but in my own heart, I was hoping this goes well. And so I think that you need to, so as you get started on this, it's okay to feel that way. And as you just lay out a couple of tools that we do every day, being intentional about stuff, um, that's not hard for us to do. We can do that every day, and we can do that with our partner, and that helps set this up for success.
I think when you mentioned being intentional, having that intentionality there, I think that's really important, that focus on it, because let's be honest, life is busy. I mean, there's a lot of times there's kids, there's jobs, there's, sometimes aging parents and all kinds of different things to take care of where you don't, it's hard to focus and to take and really put your energy, your intention into focusing. Was that something, did you find a hard time with it, or was it easier or became easier over time?
Well, it's again, this is kind of like uh, you know, finding you're looking for water and you're surprised you find any water on your backyard, and I can't believe it's here, and so you've got that going on, but you also have just regular life going on. And so maybe a foundational element that I think will help here is that as we get up every day, and we've got a partner, we really have two things that we're focusing on. One is all of life. And particularly if we've got a partner, we've decided to move forward in certain ways. And maybe we're buying a house, or maybe we're you know we're helping our partner get a master's degree, or they're helping us get a master's degree. I mean, we've partnered and we've got a lot of stuff going on. It could be getting training for a new job, or we just got laid off, and so
Yeah.
how do we get the new job? And maybe we do have family health problems, or maybe we're having kids, or maybe our kids are leaving, or whatever the situation is. We always have this kind of a challenge at our feet every single day. And
Yeah.
we generally have 4 or 5 items, and it really takes a lot of our attention. And we often think one of the things we're grateful for is that we do have this long-term relationship. And we think because it's long-term and we've been with them, it's okay to focus on this 100% of the time, and we'll find time at the weekend or at night or
Mhm.
maybe in the morning or when we go on that trip next month or at Christmas. We just think at some point in the near future, we will be able to make that connection. Sometimes we do, but there's times that we don't. So I said there were two. One is how do we handle all the hubbub in our life? But the other is this is how do we maintain that connection daily? And one of the things that I found that was so surprising uh, with the national research and the participants, I had them keep journals and they sent those to me.
Right.
So I wasn't just getting, multiple uh, question answers. I really got a lot of detail from these people about how they were experiencing this for the first time, the second time, trying the different kinds of experiments. And one of the things that they said is that they were really surprised at how they were able to connect, and really within 5 seconds, really, when we get into the experiments here, really, they just take like 5 seconds. It's really not long. And our
Oh,
body is really ready to go, really ready to make this happen in a wordless way. I'm really describing something that we've already either experienced, we know about, we're just not doing it daily. We're not doing it with the right amount. We're not doing it intentionally. And we're
intention.
just trying to do it where we're paying attention to all these other things. So if we do these two things where we're focusing on our partner and we also are focusing on all these things and we're doing that daily, this is really where the success comes from. This is really where we stay together. And so it's this kind of intentionality on a daily basis. And again, really talking about just a handful of 5 second moments, really throughout a day. You might spend a minute and people say, oh, well, I can do that. Well, do it with intention, and you're going to find that you'll be connected and that you won't need to wish, I wish we went on that vacation because we're not connected, or I wish this other thing would have happened so that we could have been connected. This is a way to tend your relationship garden every day.
That's really important because a lot of times you think it's going to take hours a day and so much time and so much energy to connect on that, to do those connections, to do those focusing, to have that intention. And I think that's what really stops a lot of people. They're like, "Oh, it's going to take so much. There's no way to do it in a short amount of time." And I love how you said short bursts. And what do you recommend people do for those short bursts of that connection, that focus, to bring yourself into that focus?
Well, there are a handful of experiments. There are five. Uh, and one of the ones that is maybe easiest for people in long-term relationships to try is a hug. And
No.
so we encourage people to, in the book, we talk about a 5 second hug. And again, one of the great things about it is that you don't need any practice. We've all seen a hug, we've all done a hug. It's just that we're not doing any hugs for the most part. And again, I got this back in the journal entries. Is it doing a 5 second hug? Some of these people thought I was asking them to do brain surgery on themselves or something. Oh, I don't know. That was so weird. It was weird for me, and I was planning it. So it's not. And their partner, again, neither of them have really been involved in 5 second hugs, which, maybe unless as some precursor to having sex or something, generally
Right.
they just don't do it. And so they might give a quick hug and then they're out, maybe a quick peck on the cheek and then they're out. And so that's what they're used to. So really spending really intentional time. Again, we're
Yeah.
just talking 5 seconds, but there was not a couple that participated in the national research who didn't feel at the very beginning, not only does this seem like a long time, 5 seconds, and we realize we do not do this. And this is what I found. I was not doing this in my own relationship. And it's not that I didn't do it maybe a few times a year or something, but to really kind of do this out of the blue, I just wasn't doing it. And neither were any of these couples. And we included couples of all ages, all types, genders, orientations, um, uh, different economics. Um, I really wanted to I really was almost looking, is there any group that this doesn't fit? And I thought there might be. Or there might be just some people who, oh, I don't know, that's crazy. I'm not going to do that. In fact, I've done a lot of research with in my business work where people are rolling out new products or trying out new slogans or whatever, and we've done a lot of national research with that. And generally, with this type of national research, you always get some naysayers. They think
Right.
it's either dumb or, I've even joked as I've been involved in other research. I said, these people would complain if we were giving them free money. Want bigger denominations. Oh no, I just want small bills. It's like, really, we're giving you, so I really was expecting that we would have some negativity. In fact,
Right.
I really, when I set this up with this national research firm, I set it up in two stages. The first stage was really to try it out with these 5 experiments, and I kind of gave them some instructions, and I really anticipated that I get some pushback, people wouldn't like it, and I would learn from that, and I would then do a second trial, a second
Mm,
level of experiment once I learned what people didn't like about this first go round, because I was really trying to get enough insight that would help me finish the book, understand how people were approaching it. Well, the thing that was so surprising, and I still have a hard time understanding this, just because I've seen so much other research, is that all of the couples, first of all, did it. I mean, we often have, when we do this, oh no, I'm not
right.
doing that. I decided that stinks. And so, okay. So, uh, first of all, everybody did it, and they were all engaged, and they all had a
Wow.
good experience with it. And in fact, this so stumped me. I even talked to the guy who was running the research. I go, I'm not quite sure what to do with that. I was really, that's just not how humans behave. And so this, I think, is an underlying message that this is something where all people can try this. All people will have an experience that will help them connect, and they will be surprised that this connection is something not only, and again, something else I got from the research that I thought was surprising. Most people go into this when they try this with their partner, much like me. Oh, I'm not doing well. I hope I can get my partner to be more engaged with me. And so I was just really focusing on them. What what I got again and again, and I found this myself, is that when I reached out intentionally to my partner, again with this 5-second hug, not only were they engaged, but I was elevated. And I was kind of surprised that my own body kicked in. And I got endorphin flow, I got oxytocin, I got serotonin, I got these feelings. And it also reminded me of why I chose my partner. It's like
Mm,
my body was waiting to give me this memory. Now, when I start this, and I say this in the book, is that when you go in for this 5-second hug, say nothing as you go in for the hug,
mm.
nothing. And man, I like to editorialize on everything. You could be eating cereal in the morning, and I could give some editorial about whatever cereal you're eating. I mean, I can talk about anything. And so really, you decide not to say anything as you go in for the hug. While you're hugging, nothing. And you may want to apologize, or you may want to do this, you may say nothing. And then when the hug's over, just pull back and then leave. So there's no talking
Mm.
before, during, or after. And again, this allows for the body to be really engaged on both sides. And so,
Yes.
and there's somehow seems to be a 5-second threshold that once we cross that, we get this endorphin flow, we get this chemical release in both of us. And again, this is why it's going to work for your partner, regardless of who they are. And it may take a couple of hugs for them to, because again, we got this in the research. A lot of people said, some partner, when they got a hug, they go, now, what's this about? What do you want? I know you're up to something. Just tell me, spill the beans. I know is this a trick? And so because they haven't done it, this is
Right.
not, I mean, again, sounds crazy. They just have not experienced a 5-second hug in their recent relationships. So they think something's amiss. But once they get through one, two, generally it's maybe the third one at most, it'll start to kick in. Once they realize that the person who's giving that hug, the listeners to your show, when they
Yeah.
try this and and their partner believes their intention is pure, they'll lean into it. And then, and then something else that's so interesting is that without any discussion, because I told him, try this for a week, keep a journal on the, I asked him to do 3 of the experiments, keep a journal, don't say anything's going on. And if they ask anything, say, look, I'm just trying to show you that I care. And so I
Yeah.
said, just say that, don't go into any detail. Let's just kind of get through this so you can practice it, get your own sense about it. And so the thing that happened often on the second day, or maybe later the first day, is that their partner, who maybe even questioned them earlier, they would then come in and do their own 5-second hug. And
Wow.
and so their partner, who thought they were driving this boat, they thought, oh, this is my experiment. They're all of a sudden their partner, who seemed disinterested in this connection, all of a sudden steps up and they have this moment. And and sometimes the partner will do something. And again, I found this interesting. Most often it was wordlessly, they would invent something to do with their partner in a wordless way that helped them connect. And the partner was being intentional. So as you just are intentional and you step in and be wordless, it allows this body to body communication and connection to take place. So it again, it's pretty powerful.
I think that's absolutely amazing. And I love the fact that you did the experimentation and you did, the test group and putting it out there because honestly, there's a lot of changes that have been going on in the world as a whole, but people are documenting them. And I think that is so important, especially men have, I'm just going to be honest, a lot of times men don't get the hugs and stuff as much as I feel they should because it's kind of that mentality of, oh, they're tough, they're hard, you don't need this. And so I really love the fact that you did this experimentation. You got the results back. So when other people are looking at it, and especially other guys are looking at it going, oh, this is possible. This is possible. Because I think I've talked to a lot of different guys too, and a lot of times they feel a little left out and feeling like they are the ones that need to do, putting it forward and things like that. So and to not expect anything back. And I think it's really going forward, the energy and the world we're going into, you want to have that equality where people can show affection on both sides without, like you said, to be open and do it just because you really want to have that close connection. And I think that's something that's really key going forward. And I like you said, they were doing it with partners, but I would think even for children and for family
Yes,
or friends to do this, because there's a lot of people out there, especially once we all grow up and get to be adults. I'm not still not grown up yet, but but
right. Me
once
too.
but once we get to be adults, a lot of times that goes away. And there's people out there
Right,
that haven't had a hug in a long, long time. And to be
right.
able to do that.
Well, and one of the experiments I talk about, and this was actually the first one I did with my partner, was a massage, a back massage.
Mm,
And again, this I talk about how you do it very intentionally and really you're speaking from your heart. Uh, and you really, I try and send a loving message through my hands and have my fingers share that message. And I'd close my eyes and I was being very intentional about this. Very firm, very slow movement of the hands on her back. And my wife really likes hugs or likes massages. And so this was when I first did it, I thought this might be a winner just because she likes this. And when I'd done massages before, they were so boring. I actually had to count. I'd count to like 400. Oh, is that enough time? And so when I was doing this and I was being so intentional and I was really focused on, again, what I was doing, I
yeah.
found something amazing is that time seemed to be
Mm,
suspended. And so I'd close my eyes. And again, I used to think if I could just keep that massage going for 4 minutes, I'm a winner, you know. And I remember the first time I did it, and I opened my eyes and I could hardly believe 12 minutes had gone by. And
wow.
I thought, wow. In fact, I even did some research and I mentioned it in the book that when we close our eyes um, in this type of intentional way, time does suspend. I mean, I've got some
Mm.
references in the book about how it kind of changes how we are viewing reality. And so it's interesting. I kind of stumbled on that, but there is something real to that. So um, as we do this, oh, I wanted to explain a little bit about the massage because I wanted to tell about a story I had with my son, who's an
Oh.
adult. And so I went over to his house and he was laying on the couch and I could tell just the way he was laying there. He was kind of laying there gingerly, and I could see some scrapes on his arms. And he does a lot of mountain biking. And anyway,
Oh.
he had been out mountain biking and had a fall, and so he was trying to kind of recuperate. And anyway, so this is when I was really doing my research for the book, and again, not telling anybody that I was doing anything. And so I
All
thought,
under the radar.
let's try some of this, massage thing with this wordless connection. So I said to my son, I said, "Hey, how about if I rub your feet?" Well, those words had never been spoken between us ever. So this was like for me to say that, uh, okay, so like not a bad thing. I like my feet massaged. I don't know how that's going to work with my dad doing it, but okay. So you know I so I did the same thing. I was very intentional. I took a foot at a time, and I did the very slow, very firm, and then kind of methodical movement. And again, I was thinking of something loving in my heart, and I
Mm.
was really picturing that energy and that message going from my heart down my arm to my fingers. And I was really trying to connect with the cells in his feet, this loving connection. And we went, and I did both feet. And again, and again, I wasn't looking for it to last a long time, but I got to the point where I kind of feel like, okay, this seems like a long time. And it was like 15 minutes, which again,
Oh.
I am not, I would, I would not do it. If I was choosing time, I would not choose to do it
Right.
for 15 minutes. So I was really shocked that that happened. But again, you close your eyes and time is somehow suspended a bit. And so I did that. And um, anyway, when I finished, my son was really grateful. He
Wow.
was grateful. And then he had a bunch of stuff going on with his work, and he was trying to do some things, and so he'd kind of been distracted for a while. Anyway, that after this was done, I found that we started chatting in a way that we hadn't for a while,
Wow.
and we were kind of engaged, and it was a very and the rest of the evening kind of had this positive to it that wasn't necessarily planned or discussed. And I didn't tell him I was doing any hocus pocus, I was just, and, and it just set a nice tone. And again, this could happen with any family member. I was talking to a woman and about this, and she was helping with her sister. Her and her husband gone on a trip, and they had a 12-year-old son who thought he was too old to have a babysitter,
Mm.
his aunt. And anyway, when nighttime came, the 12-year-old was a little homesick for his parents. And so she laid down beside him on the floor and took his hand and massaged his hand. And
Mm.
she came back and told me this helped him go to sleep. And it just gave him comfort. So again, we can find ways to do this with our family members that again we experiment, try what works. Maybe you find something that works better than something else you tried. So just give this a go. But again, this is just really how we connect with humans. It's not just with our partner or a family. I've got several stories in about how I actually did this type of process at work when I was working with senior leaders and in other situations. Uh, again, I didn't tell them what I was doing, but I was able to, and sometimes I found somebody who was doing some wordless connection with me, and I learned from them. Again, I shared that in the book. But again, this is the type of thing that we can do really in any moment at any time. and we can experiment.
I think that's something important to hear, though, to know you can do this at you don't have to have a certain time. You don't have to set it on your schedule. It's more of when you feel that, put that intention out there and start on it. I've got to ask, I mean, I can see where this is helping this wordless connection with the people you're close to, your family, your friends, to showing that appreciation and that gratitude. And you said you also used it at work. So how did you use it with work or with coworkers? How did that work?
Well, it actually, again, part of this is just kind of separating our head, which is
Yeah.
always ordering us around. You're late. Hurry up. Brush your teeth. Tie your shoe. Don't bump into that guy. Apologize. I mean, if your brain's like my brain, I'm getting orders like that all the time. Just a minute. I'm trying to catch up. And so our head is always, telling us stuff.
Yeah.
So we've got one communicator, and it's our head. But we
Yeah.
also have a second communicator, and that's our heart. Now, I explained kind of how these two, that's really all part of our brain. This is our limbic system, but it really, I feel, works very well for me to think of it as my heart. So I think, what's my heart telling me to do in this
Mm.
moment? And so I turn from my head and I almost tell my head, okay, shut up. And then I ask my heart, what should I say? I had an experience, I was working with a group of senior leaders, and their bosses felt like they were, uh, the organization was trying to move in a new direction. These people were supportive, but they still wanted to do everything the old way. And
Right.
so there was this push pull. Yeah, we want to support them, but they didn't want to change how the process was working. And so I was doing some kind of a workshop with several workshops with them to kind of move in this direction, make plans, make goals, and move forward. Anyway, we'd met several times, and I had got to a point where, again, I was thinking they are not doing anything. They're not doing
Mm.
some of their homework. Right? And I was thinking, got to give them some tough love. And again, this is my head speaking. Yeah, I'm going to make them be sorry they came to work today. No, but of course, I was going to do it in a loving way. Of course,
Yeah.
that was my
Of
plan.
course.
Tough love, but in a loving way. And so I was all set so we went through the meeting. We had a nice startup. I was all my meetings start up real nice. And so everybody was kind of in a good mood. And anyway, but I was thinking, okay, it's time to bring the hammer. I got to bring the hammer.
Mm.
Because this leadership team, they're saying this got to happen. So anyway, so as I'm doing it, I'm sitting there and I'm just about ready to stand up and bring the hammer. And I'd already
Mm.
thought through what I was going to say. And again, tie into their goals. I mean, this wasn't like, I was going to tip the table over or anything, but I was going to bring the hammer. And so just at that moment, I had been experimenting with this stuff. And I said, and just in the spur of the moment, I said, what does my heart say I should do? So I
Mm.
paused. And again, this wordless connection, it happens in a moment. And so I just paused. I mean, and as I was pausing, I looked at everybody's face, and they were all enjoying themselves. They were all smiling, and they were waiting for my next words, which in my mind I decided to be the hammer, which I thought, oh, they're not going to be happy in a minute. And so, anyway, so I thought, what did my heart say? And at that moment, I actually got a picture in my mind, and it was a box and then an oval around the box. And
Mm.
I thought, I can just draw this on the whiteboard that was right there. And I understood immediately what these images were. The box dealt with engineering,
Mm.
and engineers really are very structured, and they
Yeah.
are loyal to that structure. And in some ways, they felt like they would be disloyal to who they were as engineers if they did some of this stuff that the organization was asking them to. That was kind of where I was. But then I talked about this oval, and really the oval represented all the other things in addition to engineering that needed to happen, marketing and other things, getting the product manufactured and so forth, that needed to happen for the customer to have the experience. And so engineering wasn't just the only thing. Everyone needed to pull together was really kind of the message. And so I drew this and I talked about the box and their loyalty to it. They all agreed. They nodded that we're loyal to that box. And then I said, what does it? And so I caught a little bit about this big oval that was surrounding the box. And they kind of got it. And so we kind of went through this, and this was the change that needed to take place. And so I share that with you that really it's a lot about how you engage yourself and your heart, and you let your heart speak. So that's one of the examples. So
I think it's really important though when you talk about heart. I mean, you're talking about intentionality, and for me, everything is about intention. Where you're putting your focus, it's intention, and it's also your heart. And I love the fact that you're tapping into your heart before you did this meeting, and said, is there a better way? Is there a different way? And you've received all that intuitive guidance you needed right at the moment you
right,
needed it to help
right,
you shift and change. But that's also making such a big difference where people are starting to tap into their hearts more. And that's something when you're talking about being intentional and focusing through there, that's so important to tap into the heart, tapping into your heart, feeling that coming back. That is really, as humans, this when you talk about wordless connection, that's where we started. That's where we came from. And now we're kind of going back to remembering we can make those connections
right,
wordlessly.
right.
And it's more powerful than words a lot of times.
Well, it's a couple of things. One that comes to my mind, and I mentioned this in the book, and um, I, oh, I'm forgetting the name of the composer, a very famous composer, and I have it in the book. uh, he made the comment. He said the music he felt was between the notes.
Hmm.
And I've mentioned this to musicians, and they said that's very true. It's really the space between the notes that determines the rhythm and how the music is heard. Little space, the notes are very quick. Long space, and depending on how that space is managed, it changes the feeling of the music entirely. And so, really, even how we experience music is touched by this wordless connection. We are
Yes.
connected to music in such a beautiful way, but it is often the spaces that exist in the music that really make that happen. I wanted to highlight something that is so powerful that makes this so that this is within everyone is that we started living together as in groups about 350,000 years ago. Humans, we just love to be in groups. And even the people who say, oh, no, I want to live by myself. Oh, yeah, but in a group. Yeah, that's why you go to the grocery store. Oh, yeah, I like all this, someone bringing all this food here, And so they may not have a personal relationship, but they do like all the experience and services that living in a group provide them. And so we've
Yes.
been seeking out groups, uh, you know, for over 350,000 years. And we had families and we had relationships and we did group hunting events together. But the thing that is interesting is that we did not have the ability to speak, depending on what scientists you look at, between 10 and 50,000 years ago. So we spent, eons of time in all these communities, small groups and families with children and partners and large groups wordlessly. So we, as our bodies, learned this because we ourselves want to survive. And so our bodies learned how to communicate meaningfully. Again, like I bet people back then, they knew to close their eyes. They knew to be firm when they were giving someone a massage. They knew to stay with 5 seconds because after 5 seconds, they knew that they felt better. And so they did all this stuff. And so when they did learn to speak, and again, we now in a phase where no one stops speaking, but our bodies have a whole library of these abilities and ways to connect. And we bring this from the womb. We are
Mm.
born ready to do this. So when I say that everybody can do this, everybody can do this. This happens to everybody in the moment, and it makes it happen. Our bodies are ready to set forward. But I do find, and again, this was part of the research, is that it can only happen if we stop talking. As soon
Mm.
as we speak, it distracts everything. It's like someone's telling a joke and then someone starts trying to give you driving directions on top of it. Well, then all of a sudden the joke's not very funny. And so this is where wordless connection comes in. We need a lot to allow the body to be able to connect and communicate without any instruction. And my final comment on this is that you can go to any culture and community on the planet and they know what a hug is. They know what a
Mm.
smile is. They know the meaning of eye contact. They all know what a kiss is.
Wow.
No instruction needed. They know this. We bring this with us. This is part of how we've become, this is how we approach life as humans. Our bodies are ready to connect.
And I find it interesting. You talked about we're ready from the womb. We're ready for that wordless connection right away. You think about it. Baby's born. They can't talk to you. You're not hearing it. You have to trust yourself wordlessly connecting to them. What do they need? Knowing their cries, understanding just when they are, whatever they're doing. Like, oh, I think they might be in trouble, or I think they're getting into trouble. Or, you're knowing this ahead of time. But also, if you think about it, when babies are born, what do you have to do? You have to hug them, you have to hold them because they can't do it themselves. So you're looking at all those hugs and that holding we used to have. And then as we get older, gradually start doing less and less and less of that connection. And I think it's been
Yes,
taught to do less instead of going, why can't you still continue with those long hugs, no matter who you are at that time? Because we came in getting all those hugs, and then I'm just getting information my team is just saying, and I have a team in the non-physical, and they're just saying, and also when people get to the end of their lives, people come in and they're seeing them if they have time and they're having where they're failing, people are giving them hugs more than they did before. They're holding their hand more than they did before. And
right.
that's something, but we have in the middle, and they're saying, they're bringing up something. There's something where they had said, the words between the words, the life between the dash. I've seen it for on cemetery on the headstones. It'll be
Yeah,
when you're born, when you died, but what happened in the dash? And it seems like we have all the connection at the beginning and a lot of connection at the end. We
yes.
forget about the dash part.
Yeah, I had an experience at work, and again, I described this in the book, where I was working with a large organization, and quarterly, they would have a couple of senior leaders come and address this large team, and they were always great. They were great speakers, and man, I looked forward to them. I didn't hardly even know these guys, and I don't know, let's go. I want to go hear these guys. Anyway, I was with some group leaders of engineers. And anyway, they knew one of the guys. And so at the end of this presentation in the afternoon, these guys would always go up and say, "Hey, how are you doing?" And they wanted to chat with this guy. And he was a bit of an older guy. And anyway, so I would just go with him because I was sitting with him. And so I was part of that group. And, but I didn't know these leaders and they didn't know me. And so anyway, I remember the first time I met this one guy and I shook his hand and he said hello and then he said hello and I shook his hand and then I stepped back and I had an experience where I felt like a better person for having
Mm,
shook this guy's hand. He didn't say anything. I thought, I'm imagining things. Well, I had several more moments with this guy at future presentations. And after two or three of these things, where every time all he did was shake my hand and say hello, look at me,
mm,
and then, uh, you know, I'd stop. It's not like we held hands for very long, just a normal handshake length. I felt like a better person. I thought, oh, I'm just making this up. I'm just making this up. So, of course, leave it to me. So, next presentation, I think, I'm not going to feel anything. I'm just making this up. So, I go in with that great attitude. I'm not going to feel anything. But again, I was looking friendly, but in my mind, I'm thinking, this is malarkey. And so, anyway, so I shake his hand. Oh, I felt like a better person. So, anyway, I from then on, I really looked at I wanted to do what this guy did, and I didn't even fully understand it, but I did more research and I really focused. I told my not only my partner about this, but my children, so they all knew about this guy and even his name. I talk about this and that this guy was a goal. for me. Anyway,
Mm.
after a few years, and I was putting this in the book, I made some effort and I got this guy's address and I wrote him a letter and I
Oh.
told him about this. That, and again, he wasn't aware of any of this. And he wrote me back and he told me, he goes, "Well, that's very nice. I wasn't aware of that." And then he made some depreciating comment about himself. I can really imagine it had that impact on anybody. Uh, yeah, in fact, he made some comment, I'd have you come talk to my family. They've got comments about me. And so anyway, but I had asked in my letter to him, I said, "What was there anything in your life or anything that you're aware of that you think might have helped you with this?" And he
Mm.
talked about he had an older brother that was 2 or 3 years older. And he was again older than I was. And he had gone to school at an earlier period of time where there was no support for anybody that had special needs. And his brother
Mm.
had some special needs. And the brother was a couple of years older. And, there's a special kind of cruelty that we've either all seen or
Yeah.
experienced where in junior high, that one junior high student to another can be particularly cruel in a comment or a joke or something. And apparently this just happened again and again to this older brother. And
Mm.
this man, as he was seeing his brother affected this way, and he thought, "I always want to see the individual. I
Mm.
want to be able to bring this." And so he made some determinations and promises to himself at the heart level of how
Yes.
he wanted to behave. And so that carried on throughout his life. And I can attest that whatever decision you made, it impacted me. And so, again, I think this is part of this body to body connection that we don't even fully understand in all areas. And so,
Yeah.
again, that was at work. And I thought, man, wouldn't that be great if I could do that for everybody that I met who was a stranger, and I shook their hand. So anyway, that was very touching to me.
I think that's really important to hear, though, because a lot of people don't realize the impact they have on other people. They have no clue of how much of an impact they make on other people. And when you realize other people are making an impact, then a lot of people don't stop to think, so are they. So are they
Right.
themselves. And how are they bringing themselves forward? What type of energy are they bringing forward? Are they being critical? Are they being, condescending? Or are they really being open and saying, I really want to know this person, who they are at a heart level, at a true level, and not be making judgments on people. And that's very key, very, very key for people going forward, not to have the judgment and to know everybody's making an impact. This man had such an impact that it made you reach out to start more. But then look at how much impact you're making. And every time you reach out and you talk or you give someone a
Right.
handshake or a hug, how much of an impact that makes. Because
Right.
there's people that don't feel they're worthy of a hug. And
Yeah.
that's
Yeah. No,
important.
plus I put his story in the book,
Yeah.
and I explained this whole thing. And I made my kids listen to this story about this guy a bunch of times. And so, yeah, yeah. I mean, we have no idea. A thought that came to me, and often I save this comment towards the end, and maybe we're towards the end, but is that I think your comment about judgment about self is so real. And I think there's, we might even be able to touch 98% of our audience will think, "I am not that guy. I am not that person. That this works for others, and I'm glad that it worked for this guy who wrote this book, but this had never happened to me.
Yep.
Nobody wants my hug. Well, one of the messages I want people to know is that we carry this treasure, we carry this abundance with us wherever we go. This is part of the legacy of uh, where we lived for eons of time, where it is baked into our DNA. You can't escape it. You can't. You may think, "Oh no, I didn't get that." No, you did. This is just with us. This is just with you. And we have this abundance and it's ready to go. And amazingly, it can happen in 5 seconds. I'm really only asking people, give your partner, generously 30 seconds a day. What? I mean, that just seems, well, that seems too little. no, let's just start with 30. Be crazy. You can give them a minute tomorrow. And so, uh, and I will tell you, my partner, she's a no nonsense kind of person. And whenever she's leaving, she's all structured, I'd like to hear the inside of her head. And so, anyway, but in fact, just a little bit ago, she was going somewhere and she said, "Okay, I'm leaving. We've got it. I was just going to find you so I could give you a hug." So I go, "Okay, oh, let's hug. And so, anyway, so even people who think they're very structured, now go ahead, do it. And interestingly enough, with my wife and I, and we kind of did this from the beginning. And again, you'll find your own way, you'll find your own rhythm.
Yeah.
And again, this was never discussed. We did the 5-second hug, and when that was done, we stopped. Again, no conversation, and then we gave each other a 5-second kiss. So we put two of them together. What? And so,
Whoa.
anyway, we now do that every time we hug. We then give each other a 5-second kiss, which is again one of the experiments. And we do this. We do this not only with each other, but we can be anywhere. We can be in someone else's home, and one of us is leaving, or at the grocery store. I mean, we do not limit where this goes because this is important to us. And again, my wife, who is maybe a little more reserved than I am, this is important to her. And
Yeah.
she does not want to go through the day without this happening with her and to her. And so I invite everyone to live this abundance and give this a try.
That's really important. You don't realize how much you need it until you start doing it again, until you start making it really in the forefront, putting that intention of doing it every day. You don't realize, like, wow, we went how long without a hug or a kiss, or how long without that personal interaction, that intentional focus, because you get carried away in life.
Right.
Life takes it away. And I think it's important for people once they start. I like the experimentation, and I've got to say I went through, so I don't get a chance to read everybody's books cover to cover, but what I do is I kind of use it like I do an Oracle card. I say, where do I need to look? And so I'll scroll down and I'll hear my team say this page. So they had me stop on the unexpected acts of service part of your book, which is chapter 12, page 127. And they talked about, and you had the quote from Mark Twain about kindness is a language which the deaf can hear and the blind can see. And I really love that part of it. And then it says we use our words, but and ask them, like, what can I do for you? But then you had in there, but 99,999 times out of 10,000, they'll respond, thanks, I'm fine. And this is really going through your unexpected acts of service, which you were talking about with the kiss, with the massage, with the doing something out of the ordinary. And I'm going to say I encourage people to check out your book, because also in the book I see you have the experiments where you talk about, here's some experiments you can do. These are things for you to try. And I think that's really, your book is really interactive with people, to be able to take them through and go, hey, read this chapter, and then here's an experiment. Here's some key points. Here's some things you can try. I know with this one it says with the chapter 12, one of the experiments says, come up with a list of 3 unexpected acts of kindness that you can do for your partner. Do all 3 in the next week and write down the experiments. And I like the fact that you're not saying do it in a day. It's like, here's a week. Work with it a little at a time. How did that go with you as you were doing it with your wife with the unexpected acts of kindness? And
Well,
with the group. I want to hear about the group. How did they think about that too?
sure. Now, this is fantastic. And I love this. I love this whole idea about unexpected. Because often in our society we can't do anything without permission, and
Yes.
we don't want to invade their space. And what if I give them something they don't like? Well, I just say, who cares? Who cares? Give them something they are unexpecting. And you may guess, I will tell you, I love chocolates. I love chocolate. And so if I don't know what they want, you know what, I get them some chocolate. Or I actually like C's candy, for people who know C's
Hmm.
candy. And so I'll give them a box of C's. unexpected. I'll tell them, I hope you like chocolate. I love this. That's why I'm giving it to you. So even if they don't, they know that I am being intentional about this gift. And I don't need their permission to be intentionally kind. And really, it isn't so much the gift I'm giving the intention. This very thing that people feel like they lack is that I am giving them my care. And one of the other things too, and I'm sharing this more from men. You know, you were so gracious to men a little bit ago. I almost interrupted you
Yes.
and said, men are oblivious a lot of the time. Just my own experience and how I live my own life. And so, um, men, they often want to. In fact, I tell a story, and I remember this guy told me this story. He said. Um, we had a bunch of kids and it was crazy time, and I was home from work and my wife was down at the end of the hall, and so I walked down the hall. I had to step around the vacuum and I had to step over the laundry, and I got to her and I finally said, what can I do to help? And she looked at me as if I was a crazy man, and she said, just look. And so one of the things I talk about there about this whole intentionality is that when you ask someone, one of the things I got back from particularly women who get asked this by their male partner, and maybe it can happen differently. I'm
Right.
not being specific about gender, but often they get asked, how can I help? And so if they do say something, then the person being helped then has to add this task to something
Yeah.
they have to manage. So instead of making taking something off their plate, we've added something to their plate. And so we want to make it easier. And really, this is all about us. We want to feel good and we want to leave their house thinking, oh, I did something great. I'm a wonderful guy. And so don't ask. And if you're going to go in and help, just help. Just go in and help. And so that guy, he should have just plugged in the vacuum and started vacuuming, and he doesn't know what hallway, bedroom, just start vacuuming. And she's really got an opinion. She's going to tell him. But he knows how the vacuum works, and he's seen how this works. He can make a go of it. A story that I love, and I did not include this in the book, but I love this story. And it's about an older couple, and he always was kind of, as a man and woman, and he always kind of took care of the house, and she took care of the inside, and um, and this was being told by the man. And he said, um, I've been doing some of these experiments because he was the one keeping the journal. So he was sharing this stuff. Anyway, he hadn't asked permission about any of this stuff, and they've been kind of going through this stuff for a week. Anyway, he'd done some acts of service without, just spontaneously. So anyway, towards the end of the week, he had told her, I am going to go work on the deck. It's kind of cold outside. I think winter was ending, and he had some stuff he wanted to do to kind of get ready for spring. And he had just offhand mentioned to his wife, around 10 o'clock, I'm going to go out and work on the deck. And the deck was above, and he got his tools out there, and again, you know, these two people operated on a time, so he just shows up. So at 10 o'clock, he's out there, he's got his tools and he's ready to do something. Anyway, he explains that she never helped with the outside or the house or any repair. This was just
Mm.
not her thing. That's just not what she was comfortable with and had any experience, didn't really know how to use tools. Anyway, stroke at 10, he's out there getting started, and she shows up.
Wow.
Actually, she shows up, and she dug out somewhere some work boots that she was wearing. She had some warm pants on. She had a warm, heavy coat on that was, that she could work in, and she had work gloves on. And he even said, I don't even know where she got those work gloves. I mean, she didn't have any, but she had gloves that fit. She had a hat on. She came out and said, man, I've told this story a lot, and I've never gotten emotional for it. And I would have not told this story if I thought I was going to get emotional. Um, she said, I am here to help. And he goes on to explain she was absolutely no help. She was no help, but she was intentional. This was one of the most meaningful things that she had done and that she could do. And she was there to help and she was sincere. She
Yeah.
wanted, and so anyway, I think that um, I think this unexpected acts of service is really a winner. And it is
Yeah.
something that we can do at any time with our partner that can be meaningful. And so anyway, I love that story.
I love the fact you brought it up because that's one of the things for me. My team is also coming in, and one of the things is they're so glad this was brought up because that's why they talked about the men at first. Because there's a lot of times men are very stoic and they hold everything. They're taught to hold everything inside, not to show emotions, not to show that. But there are a lot of times they feel like they're doing it on their own and they feel like
Yes,
they're alone in the world. And it really is taking the time to step out of, if there's, whether they're with men or women, it doesn't matter. But for someone to step out of their comfort zone to say, I don't know what I'm doing, but I'll be here to support you. That's so
right.
huge
It
because
is
it's not the, they're laughing, they're saying, it's not that she sucked at it. It's the fact that she was there and she was showing, I'll support you
yes,
just as much as you supported me. Because how many people don't have any sort of support or don't feel they can be in a relationship and still feel like they're not supported? And
right.
this is what is the key of all of this.
I agree. In fact, a story that's coming up for me that I'll share that touches on this so powerfully. Again, this a woman was telling the story about again writing in her journal. Hadn't explain anything. She's just going in for the hug and anyway, it was evening and they had a very nice dinner and they were cleaning up and doing the dishes and she thought, oh, I'm doing 3 hugs today. Didn't tell her husband this is my third hug and I'm just doing it from a journal, and so she leans in for the hug because that's her assignment to herself, and so she leans in for the hug and they stay embraced 5, 10 seconds, and then all of a sudden he starts to cry. She's never seen him cry before. This was really surprising. And he then pulls back and he shared something that she was unaware. She said, he talked about some financial challenges that he was having. It's not like they were going to lose the house or anything, but he was under a great deal of strain. And anyway, this hug made him feel connected. And then unexpectedly, he cried. And so I think this line of comment that you're making, that we need this, we need this
Yes.
opportunity, we need this. Again, our bodies are ready to make this happen. We don't need practice. We don't need to make an agenda. We don't need to do anything. We just need to lean in and try it.
And that's why I think they were also mentioning about the therapy. A lot of men are a little hesitant on therapy,
Sure.
but to go through something like this, to open themselves up to try these experiments and to be open to them and for their partners to support them in this way. So, I mean, I know a lot of people where they're when they grew up, they never even heard the words I love you from their parents. They've
Right.
never heard that. And so even when they get in relationships, they're still a little hesitant, like, is this real or is it a little, they're not quite
Right.
sure. And I think what you're doing, I don't think I know what you're doing is very helpful to a lot of people. And I know you appeal to the guys because you're a guy writing this, not, and I just hear, not a woman writing this sappy story,
Right.
how to do it.
That's right. It's not a sappy story. It's a manly story. So
It's
keep going.
it's so it's really for me. I love seeing men who are opening themselves up to this, who are saying, here's ways to make that better connection, to make a deeper connection, to be able to feel supported. Like you said, once you do it, you were giving it to her, just because I'm going to do this 5-second experiment, but then you started feeling it back and going, oh, there's more to that. And I think it's so important for everyone to feel supported, to feel loved, to feel they matter. And it's important for the men. to hear this, especially the men. And I'm going to call them out, okay? Because I feel it's really
Thank you.
important for men to have that.
You bet.
Because they've been shouldering a lot of responsibility, and I'm not, I keep hearing they're going, you're gonna hear flack. I'm like, whatever. I'm saying a lot of times men do take on a lot more responsibility, and stability and things like that. And I'm like, I know there's ones, on the offshoots or whatever, but for the most part, they take on a lot of that, and they keep it internalized. And it's so good to be able to have this brought out, not to keep internalizing. We all want to move forward. We want to all be supported, and we want our sons and daughters to be able to have that. And the best way to do that is starting here and letting it continue. Just like you said, the handshake, you could feel the difference.
Yes.
And people feel the difference in you. They feel that difference, and it makes such a
Right.
huge difference, such a big
Right.
impact. So it's so
Yeah.
important for that. So for me, I'm so happy to have you on because it's so needed. It's so needed. People don't have to do it on their own anymore. They can be connected. That's what we're here for, to bring that connection back to each other. So I am
Thank you.
so thankful for you being here and so thankful you did the experiments, even though you didn't expect anything out of
Yeah.
it.
Surprise.
Surprise, it works.
Yeah. Who could have imagined? Not me. So,
It's the best kind of experiment. And I love the
sure.
fact that you did all that experimentation. And even throughout your book, I was reading the different pages and it shows you like, hey, here's someone who did it and here's what they had reaction. And so I think that's really good for other people to see. It's not like, it's not just Rob. It's not just Rob telling me about this, but it's this person and this person and this person, and you're having the same type of reaction. And so I think for you, Rob, it's been so important to get this information out there. And I know you've already
Thank
helped
you.
many, many people already. It's just going to continue to grow.
Thank you. Thank you. I appreciate you. Thank you.
Oh, you're welcome. Thank you so much. And I know I want to be conscious of your time. Is there something you'd like to cover before we close for the day?
You know, when you and I first were talking before the show, for some reason, I started making some notes that I don't necessarily care, mention, but I'm I'm going to just kind of run through this list real quick. Normally, I mention
Absolutely.
I end with abundance. I put a big punch on abundance, but I already did that. So, um, so the thing is that when we do this, we don't need permission. Just
Mhm.
and again, we don't need a permission to give them a hug or a kiss or to hold their hand. We can just lean in and do that. It's simple. We're all able to do this. Um, and then as we're doing this few times a day, the body is set not only to make it happen in a few seconds, but the body is also aware that we've got a bunch of stuff else going on. So we only need to do this a few seconds at a time and a few times during the day, and our body is good. We're good. We're balanced. We're strong in this relationship. I mean, so we, just try it.
Yeah.
And we love living in groups, and we're wanting to be in these groups together. And this is the most intimate group, being in a partnership uh, that we can be in. And really, right now, just strive to be better.
Mm.
Again, I think the best information that we can ever tell somebody is just do simple better. So, whatever you're doing, and that's really all that humans need to do. We're really
Yeah.
good at doing simple things. And if there's something, and in this case, I've highlighted this connection with your partner, just do that a little better. And uh, and then finally, I'm going to reiterate this thing. We judge ourselves as if we're inadequate. We're
Mm.
not. We have these tools, they're baked in, whether we signed up for them, there's no subscription needed. We can just go ahead, lean in, and our body is going to give us those endorphins. Our body is going to
Yeah.
give us the oxytocin. And why we're getting that, so is our partner, because both bodies are set to go when we do the hug, Both bodies are set to go when we kiss, when we hold hands. And again, as we do all of this intentionally. So that's my closing. So thank you. Thank you for that
Oh,
opportunity to enthuse. So thanks.
I love it. I love it. I love, this is abundance in so many ways. When you take care of yourself, when you take care of your partner, when you take care of the people around you, and it all flows back. Whatever you put out, it's going to flow back to you. Just like when you give the hug, when you give the kiss, it comes right back to you. And that was a side effect you weren't expecting, I bet, during all this.
No, in fact, everybody talked about how shocked they were that they were elevated. I was shocked that I'm elevated. I thought I should be in partner jail or something. Oh yeah, you screwed up. No soup for you. And so, okay, I'll just hug my partner and get nothing. Well, that's not how it works. We get we get this abundance. This is really about who we all are, is living in this abundance.
And that's something so key for people to understand. The more you do this, the more you're going to get back. And it continues and it grows. And that's where we're at. We're changing this world one person at a time.
We
Every
are.
person who changes, it makes a difference. It's a ripple effect throughout this world. So don't think one person can't change the world because one person then interacts with another person, and pretty soon the world's changed.
Something that you said about one person, as I've done some of this with people where I've been present where they've been practicing, I don't do this a lot, but I've been present for a few people. Some of them have commented that as they were holding hands or their hand was massaged, they actually thought of their mother.
Mm.
And I got this from a few people. I didn't ask anybody, they just volunteered this. I got this several times. So I think that we have these memories where, and I bet that mother sometimes that I am having no impact on this child. I bet there's probably 500 other mothers who could do a better job. And little did they know, 40 years later, their daughter or their son would be sitting there getting a hand massage and all of a sudden think, I'm remembering my mother through this. And so when we think we are having no impact, we are. So I mean, I just wanted to share that because what you're saying is so true. We can have an impact.
Absolutely. And every single one of us are. Everyone listening, everyone watching. And Rob, for you, all the people you are impacting, especially with your book and all you have to offer. You have your courses, your workshops. Encourage everybody to check out his website. And again, it's wordlessconnection.com. So definitely check. Ooh, there's the book. Nice. I love when
Buy
they
the
have the book
book.
there.
Buy the book.
And and you'll love I went through and I love the experiments on it. It's easy, it's got easy to read, you got key questions, experiments. It's easy to follow through and it's not difficult and it's broke up into short segments, easy to follow. So definitely. So you have done an amazing job with this and I am so
Well,
happy you
thank you.
did it.
Thank you. Thank you. And give this as a gift. If you know somebody that you think would benefit from this, and often we got a family member who might be struggling. I don't know. Maybe this book could help them. And if nothing else, you give one of those experiments a try.
Absolutely, absolutely. And if you have a family member that's struggling, try some of these experiments with that person. You
Sure.
may be very, very surprised. So, well, Rob, thank you so much. I appreciate it. And again, check out his, and the links will be down below too, but it's wordlessconnection.com and also on Facebook, Instagram, and go on his website, check
And
out all he has to
TikTok.
offer. And oh, and TikTok. Ooh, nice.
Yeah, no, in fact, we're really making extra effort on TikTok. We've got some great videos there on TikTok. I mean, really great ones. I mean, we've got some good followers. So anyway, keep going.
I love it, love it. So yeah, there's so much there. So definitely check that out. And you have the coaching. You do the one-on-one individual and couples coaching, correct?
Yes.
And so that is all there. Highly encouraged. Rob has a beautiful heart, a beautiful soul on him. I highly encourage. I think you're not going to be so disappointed. I don't think you're going to be disappointed, not ported. You are going to be, you are going to be supported. That's why they keep coming
Sure.
out. You're going to be very supported. But so much there. So definitely check that out. And Rob, I want to thank you so much for being here, sharing your knowledge, sharing your heart, your time, and your journey. I appreciate it so much. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you.
And then for all of those watching, make sure to watch the next episode of Edge Talk Radio. They're on the first and third Wednesdays of the month are the new episodes coming out at 7 p.m. Central Standard Time. If you've missed any past episodes, no worries. You can check them out on either my YouTube channel or Edge Magazine's YouTube channel or as a downloadable podcast. And for a part of time, they're also on Facebook Live. So you can check it out on those. And I just want to thank everyone here. Thank you all for listening, expanding, and amplifying our universe together. Have an absolutely amazing day. Thank you.